On the morning of January 14th, 2019, Priya Anand sat at her kitchen table in Raleigh, North Carolina, and signed a check for $140,000. Her mortgage balance, carried for 11 years, read 0. Her parents drove 3 hours from Northern Virginia to be there. Her mother stood in the kitchen doorway and cried. In the 5 years that followed, that check would cost Priya $140,000 she never earned. Priya was 43 years old in 2019, but she had worked as a pharmaceutical sales representative for 16 years, steady income, good benefits, a company car she drove 50,000 miles a year. Her parents had come from Chennai in 1981. They rented apartments in Northern Virginia until Priya was 11, then saved until they could put cash down on a small colonial in Fairfax County. Her father reviewed the mortgage statement at the kitchen table every month for 14 years. He circled the principal reduction in red pen. He never talked about the stock market at all. Priya bought the house in Raleigh in 2008 for $287,000. She put 30% down and took a 30-year mortgage at 6.5%. She refinanced twice over the following decade, eventually landing at 4.25%. By the fall of 2018, her balance had reached $140,000. Her savings account held the same amount, $140,000, earning 1.8% annually. The symmetry was not lost on her. She was not impulsive with money, and she maintained a spreadsheet that tracked her net worth to the dollar. She had a 401k she contributed to at the maximum employer match every year without fail. The flaw was not carelessness. It was something else, a belief she had carried since childhood that debt was a weight, and that the only true version of safety was owing nothing to anyone. She talked to her brother about it. He said, "Pay it off." She mentioned it once to a colleague named Dana at a work lunch. Dana said the same thing. Nobody offered a second opinion. But if you want to see what a paid-off house and a missed $140,000 look like from the inside, subscribe. Drop a like if this one landed. Tell us in the comments. Mortgage or market? Back to Priya. The house was free and clear by February 2019. She had accomplished exactly what she set out to do 11 years earlier. The part that didn't go as planned was still 4 years away. On January 14th, 2019, the same morning she signed the check, the S&P 500 closed at 2,596. She knew this, and she had watched the index fall nearly 20% in the final quarter of 2018. The market drop had been part of her reasoning. She had seen her 401k lose value in Q4 2018. Not catastrophically, but enough to notice. The word volatile had weight that January. She had read the guaranteed return argument in 3 different places. The logic was clean. Her mortgage rate was 4.25%. So paying off the balance was a guaranteed 4.25% return on that money. Her savings account was earning 1.8%. The mortgage was costing 4.25%, but the spread between them was 2.45% annually, and it pointed in one direction. She was the kind of person who followed the math. She had also run the alternate scenario. What if she left the money in an index fund instead? She had looked at the S&P 500's Q4 2018 performance and weighted that outcome. The guaranteed return won. February 2019. The market began its recovery. By April, it had fully erased the Q4 2018 losses. The check had already cleared. The satisfaction of lien was already in the mail. There is a particular weight that lifts when a debt disappears. When she had carried the mortgage for 11 years. Walking through the kitchen in February, the same kitchen, the same appliances, something was different. The house had appreciated since 2008. On paper, her equity position was solid. She was not wealthy, but she was stable. And for the daughter of people who had counted every dollar, stable felt like the destination. Dana had mentioned once that she had moved a similar amount of money into a low-cost index fund at the end of 2018. She said it casually, the way you mentioned buying a new appliance. Priya had not asked follow-up questions. Neither of them was the type to discuss money in detail outside of their own heads. They split the check, said something about next quarter's numbers, and went back to their territories. March 2020. The pandemic arrived. The S&P 500 fell 34% in 33 days. Priya sat in her paid-off house and felt, for the first time since signing the check, that she had made the right call. The market recovered by August. By November, it had reached new highs. But Priya was focused on her sales territory during a year when most hospitals had closed their doors to outside representatives. She didn't follow it closely. 2021. The S&P 500 returned 26.89% for the year. Had Priya's $140,000 been invested in a low-cost index fund at the start of that January, it would have added $37,646 by the time December ended. She did not run this calculation in 2021. She had no reason to. The spreadsheet she kept tracked her net worth, at her 401k balance, the value of the house. It did not track hypotheticals. The compound return calculator was a free tool. It was available at a dozen websites she used regularly. She had just never typed those two numbers into it, $140,000 and 5 years, and pressed calculate. Between January 2019 and December 2023, the S&P 500 returned approximately 103%. On a $140,000 investment in a broad market index fund at the start of that period would have grown to approximately $283,000. She ran the calculation in the spring of 2024. She doesn't remember what triggered it: a conference, a podcast, a conversation she can't place. She opened a spreadsheet and typed the numbers in. The output was $283,420. She checked the inputs. Yet she changed the annual return assumption to 9%, then 10%. The number moved, but not enough. Every version of the calculation returned the same rough answer. She had saved $29,750 in mortgage interest over 5 years. That was real. She subtracted it from the calculator output and sat with what remained. It did not close the gap. She closed the laptop and made dinner. She opened it again afterward and looked at the same number in the same cell. And then she closed it a second time and went to bed. The number did not change. She thought about Dana. She still didn't know what Dana had actually done with that money from 2018. She had never asked, and she was not going to ask now. Some numbers are better left without a face. The house was assessed at $410,000 in 2024. She had bought it for $287,000 in 2008. The equity was real. Equity and liquidity are not the same thing. She now held that understanding more precisely. She had zero in mortgage debt and $113,000 in missed returns. These two facts lived in the same spreadsheet. They did not cancel each other out. They just sat there, side by side, without resolving. She did not tell her parents. Her father was 74, still living in the same Fairfax County house, paid off in 2007. He talked about that payoff the way some people talk about a wedding. She did not tell her brother. He had told her to pay it off. She didn't want to give the number a direction, not toward him, not out loud. Naming it would make it something she had to carry differently. She thought about what she would have done with $283,000. The way you think about a room in a house you didn't build, every detail visible and completely out of reach. She wasn't wrong to want the house paid off. Most people who grew up watching their parents fight a mortgage feel the same pull. That feeling doesn't change what the calculator said. In June 2024, she increased her brokerage contributions by $600 per month. Auto Invest, low-cost index fund. She set it up on a Tuesday evening after work and did not make a ceremony of it. The $140,000 in missed returns had not resolved itself. You cannot go back and unsign a check. But she had decided that the only productive response was to make a different decision starting from this point forward. Priya Anand is 49 years old. She lives in the same house in Raleigh, North Carolina. The deed is in a manila folder in the filing cabinet in the second bedroom. No lien is attached to it. She drives the same Accord. She still maintains the net worth spreadsheet. She updated the brokerage contribution column in January of this year and did not add a note to explain why. The house is quiet on weekday mornings before she leaves. When no mortgage payment clears her bank account on the first of the month, that part is exactly what she wanted. She has not reopened the compound return calculator since the spring of 2024. She knows the number. Numbers do not change their nature by being looked at again. That, too, she learned from her father. This is the part that's hard to sit with. She did everything right by the values she was given, and it still cost her more than most people carry in a savings account. Her parents came to Raleigh for Thanksgiving last November. Her father walked through the kitchen, but pressed his palm flat on the countertop and said one word: "Yours." The same word he had said in 2019. She nodded. She made chai on the gas stove, the way her mother had taught her. The conversation moved to her brother's new job, her mother's knees, the weather in Virginia. The calculator tab stayed closed. This wasn't the only time this happened. In 2019 alone, across the United States, millions of homeowners held cash that could have entered one of the strongest 5-year market runs in modern history. But Priya Anand owns her home outright. The check she signed in January 2019 is gone, and so is what it might have been worth. It made sense. At the time,